Why then would we, this one time, with this president, decide that we would put up barriers so extreme, like changing the Constitution, in order to lift the debt limit? That's a mathematical requirement. Of course we must all reduce the deficit. But is it our best to say we're going to use the debate to reduce the deficit to destroy the public space? Look at the appropriations bills they're bringing before us. Destroying the public space of clean air, clean water, food safety, the education of our children, the health, the financial security of our seniors through Medicare and Medicaid. That's what they are doing. This isn't, if we are just reducing the deficit here, we have come to those conclusions. We have to do it. We know how to do it. But if they want to take it to the next step of destroying the public sector, we cannot go to that place when it affects the air our children breathe, the water they drink, the food they eat, the education they receive, the safety of the neighborhoods in which they live. The Speaker also said that the bill was not perfect. Well, no bill is perfect. But I think that I disagree in one respect. I think this bill is perfect in its absurdity. It is perfect. His bill was perfectly absurd. Perfectly absurd. It's perfectly absurd, again, to say to a president, after 32 times lifting the debt ceiling, we're going to change the game for you, Mr. President. It's perfectly absurd for them to say that the bill they brought to the floor yesterday, the Boehner bill that they brought to the floor, was an agreement of the four leaders of the House and Senate, Democratic and Republican. Either you don't know what you're talking about, or it's a perfect absurdity, and I will not yield to you. It is very, very important that we all take a deep breath. We have important work to do, an important decision to make. Senator Reid has given us a direction to go. No cuts in benefits for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security beneficiaries. I wish that we had revenues in there so that those who had benefited from the greatness, the last 50 years of bipartisan progress for the American people, would be able to make their contribution, but not one red cent of revenue while we're saying kids should pay more for their student loans. So it's time to end this theater of the absurd. It's time for us to get real. It's time for us to get real and listen to the wisdom of the American people. They have said to us that they support an overwhelming numbers, a bipartisan, balanced approach. In overwhelming numbers that we should all pay our fair share. And they all agree that we should get this over with so we can get back to work, putting the American people back to work by creating jobs. The Speaker chose, when he didn't have the votes, instead of to reach out in a bipartisan way to see how we could work together, he chose to go to the dark side. Let me repeat, and I repeat, he chose to go to the dark side by putting forth a bill that he himself told his members would sink it in the Senate and I add, lead to default. Lead to default. We cannot default. We're the greatest country that ever existed in the history of the world. We're the United States of America. So let's go from the dark side to the bright side of the American people. Vote yes on the Reid bill. Thank you, my colleagues.